Recording in progress. Okay, welcome to Jerri Berry's Friend-Tastic Library. I'm your host, Jerri Berry. This is the podcast where I interview everyday average people about their fantastic lives. Instead of going to boring libraries with books, you can come to the Friend-Tastic Library and check out people. So today I am interviewing my nephew, Ashton. He is a trans person. Actually, I don't know how old you are. I didn't even ask. 21?
22.
So he's 22 years old. He lives in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. He's a glass technician. All good things. And so just so the listeners know, I don't actually know you that well because you're a lot younger than me. You weren't around for a bit through like your high school years, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then I moved to California. So yeah, it'll be fun because I'll get to know you. So I always like to start the show with the magical moment that we met, which is really cool because I met you at the hospital whenever you were born. So you don't remember it, but the year was 1999. Is that the year? Yeah, 1999. So I would have been 7. Yep, 7.
Oh, wow.
And I remember you were born at I actually don't remember what hospital you were born at. Was it McKeesport? That's kind of the generic one.
Forbes and Moroville, actually.
I was gonna say that, but then I was like, no, that's the other ones. That's the younger ones. Because I also saw your dad, my brother's younger 2 kids at the hospital, but they were at the Forbes one. And I was like, no, that can't be right. Anyways. But yeah, I remember that my dad, your grandfather, and Lori brought me with them to go see you because I lived with my dad full time and no one could watch me. And so if I was 7, that meant Randy was already in like the military, I think, because he's 8 years older, and Nick would have been like 14, maybe something like that. So they were off just doing dumb teenager stuff or in the military. And I think that's why they had to bring me, because there was no one to watch me. So yeah, I think you might have been like the first official baby I was like aware of in life.
Itty bitty, but also big baby too.
Like it was it's weird because our family is so crazy that you're older than like your aunt technically.
Yes.
Like,
I literally call them my cousins. Like,
yeah,
they're in that same age range. Like.
yeah. Because my dad has had kids for the past like 40 years. So your dad's 42. And then my youngest sister is, or like your youngest aunt is like 17, I think right now. Or yeah, she'll be 18.
17 or 18. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think she turns 18 next year. And then even Kara's going to be on the show. I was supposed to record her this week, but then she rescheduled. Kara's like 21. Kara's 20 right now. She's going to turn 21. So even she's younger, but she's like step. She's not blood, I guess. Right. But yeah. So yeah, I just remember there being like a hospital and a baby. And I don't think I'd ever seen a baby before, really. Not that I can recall, because Danny was the first one to have kids. So yeah. I remember, I hope your mom listens to this. I remember knowing your mom. I remember seeing your mom working at Chuck E. Cheese as the Chuck E. Cheese mouse. Whenever I was in school. I remember being in like first grade and the school taking all of like the honor roll kids to Chuck E. Cheese, and she was working and said hi to me, and she was the Chuck E. Cheese mouse, and I felt like such an insider, like a cool kid.
You knew who was in the mouse costume.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I know that guy. But yeah, so I wanted to start by asking I guess like the basic timeline, because from my perspective, it was like, let me think. I should have thought about it and wrote it down, but it was like Ash is a kid. And then it was like Danny meets his second wife, and then Ash is having problems. Right. And then
right.
Ash thinks that they are bisexual. And then it's like, and then the next thing I knew, I came back to visit from moving to California, and you definitely looked more androgynous. And then at some point, your mom had tagged you on Facebook as Ashton Kivador, and I was like, "Oh, okay, they're trans." So that's how that timeline worked for me. But I didn't know like. So I guess that's a good way to start. Is we'll just start from the beginning, if you don't mind, and just tell us like when it all happened.
So, I always knew something was off with me, like from little kid, like And like I came out as bisexual because that was like closer to what everyday life is, like
Yeah.
one male, like supposed to get married, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so I felt more comfortable coming out as bisexual, but I thought I was lesbian. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I talked about this in my last episode, which isn't out at this moment, so you haven't heard it, but we were talking about how just not that long ago there were not options. It was like you like girls, you like boys, or you're a bisexual, and it just gets weirder and weirder, right, to the common person with all the labels, because it was like that's all it was back then.
It like messes with people's head. They're like, what?
Yeah.
Like something ain't right with you. So yeah, I came out as bisexual in my like middle school years, mostly towards my like parents and stuff. To my friends at the time, I was lesbian. Okay,
so what is middle school age? That's like 13?
Yeah,
12,
middle
13. Okay,
12, 13.
cool.
It was like 6th grade.
Okay.
But as years went down the road, I kind of started the masculine lesbian, but I started figuring out who I was. Like, I didn't want to be a girl. I did not want, like, I always had that masculine, like, concept to me.
Yeah.
Dressing like a boy,
Yeah.
That's just who I was. And eventually in high school, I went to the school and I was like, listen, I need you guys to change my name.
Did they do it?
They did. Actually,
oh, well, I guess first I wanted to just ask a quick question. How did because I know Danny, but I only know your mom through Facebook. And I think I said this in Randy's. Your mom is like I think she's the only ex to my brothers that has remained my friend on Facebook. Just because I've known her my whole life, basically. Right. So, but how did your mom take it whenever you came out as bisexual?
My mom was actually like okay with it. She said it was a little weird.
Yeah.
And something I used to, but she was real open with it. And, I can't ask for a better response she gave me.
Because I think coming out is like the scariest part for people. I never had to do it, but I could imagine.
Absolutely.
So now we're in high school and you asked the high school to call you by Ashton, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. And how did they respond?
My senior year, they actually put Ashton on my diploma.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I was not expecting that at all. So, I mean, one of my friends in high school actually helped me come out to like my mom and
come out as in like I'm transitioning to be male, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Because he understood he's also trans. So he knew he's already done it. Like he helped step by step. He told me about getting into therapy and starting hormones.
Yeah. I feel like there's like a 7-year difference with us, but I know growing up in Elizabeth, Pennsylvania, which is just where white people are made. Like, right. just the classic middle class white person. I feel like I didn't know anybody in high school that was gay, bisexual. Well, I guess we might have known lesbians. Lesbianism's always been more accepted, I think.
Right.
And then there would be rumors of gay guys, and they were literally being picked on for it all the time. And so I was wondering if your high school was similar, or if that 7-year gap made a difference where it was more common and more welcomed.
It was more common, but it wasn't very welcomed at all.
Okay.
I mean,
sad.
Right. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. Latrobe, which is where I graduated from. Latrobe's like, you have like your really rich people, you have your middle class people, and then you have below that. You know what I mean? And if you weren't like rich or had a decent amount of money, you were nothing.
Yeah.
So it made it worse that, I was like middle class, and then I came out as trans. So
yeah.
that was, people will just bully you. That school is real bad for bullying. No
That's
offense
great.
to that school, but
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah.
Well, at least you made it out. Okay, so now like in high school you identify as trans, right? So I guess I'm trying to think of like, so how was your mom with that whole thing? Was your mom like, okay, cool, that's what's happening? Or was she like, nah?
She was more like, she didn't show that she didn't accept it, because she definitely did. She wanted me to be sure that
Okay.
that's was like, make sure that that's what I wanted, that's who I was, because this is involving now hormones, that can really mess with you.
Yeah, it's like the permanence of your decision, I guess.
Right. So
Okay.
I went through therapy, and I talked to a therapist,
Hmm.
and she had to do a whole bunch of research for a
Yeah.
month. And then when I turned 18, I got, my mom's friend actually knew the doctor. He told her the doctor's name, and we went and saw the doctor when I turned 18. And
Crazy.
yeah, so she helped me find a doctor, go to the doctor to start my process.
That's awesome. How
Yeah.
did your dear old dad take it? I think I know the
uh,
answer, but I want to ask.
Dad was a little bit more harsh. Not harsh, but like, he didn't accept it right away.
Yeah,
um
I
he
figured.
Yeah, he was like, he used to be like, you'll always be my daughter and stuff like that, and that stuff bothered me coming out. But eventually now he's a really big support system.
Oh, that's good. So he
Support,
respects like the pronouns and everything.
absolutely.
That's
It took
cool.
it, but he got there.
I remember this time where I was still pretty young, and you at the time were talking about being a lesbian or bisexual, and Danny came over and was talking to my dad about it and asking advice, and my dad is like, well, son, it's your kid, you got to try to deal with it so you don't ruin the relationship. But I remember my dad at the end making a joke about how at least lesbians won't get pregnant, and so he wouldn't have to worry about like a teen pregnancy case. And Danny did not find that as funny at the time, I don't think. But yeah, I just remember that like a clear as day. I don't know why that stuck in my brain, but I was like, oh, that's a pretty good point.
Right. I got jokes at him all the time about stuff like that.
So that's cool. So yeah, I guess so. Danny's like not the best with it at first. Your mom's cool with it, and then it all happened. So now, like, how long has it? You started hormone therapy at 18, so it's been like
Correct.
4 years, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. So what is hormone therapy like?
Well, you go and get blood work every 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
to check your levels, to make sure if you need less or more testosterone.
Okay.
Um, they start you out at like a half of a dose, and then if your body reacts well to that dose, then you start your hormones on that level. So
Okay.
they'll like that for that 3 months, and then they'll see where you're at with your hormones.
So how
Uh,
often do you go get the injections?
so they actually send me it through mail.
Oh,
I
okay.
got
Cool.
injections to myself.
Okay.
So that's every 2 weeks on a Thursday.
And you still do that every 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so to get down to like the good nitty-gritty questions. So whenever you start taking hormones, how long does it take for the like female reproductive system to stop working?
Yeah, so mine stopped right away.
Okay.
Everybody's like different.
Yeah.
It yeah, mine stopped like that month I started, I never got it again.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a friend who was assigned a female gender at birth and um is a trans male. But I think he said that it took a while for his to stop, and eventually he ended up needing a hysterectomy. So did you need anything like that?
No.
Okay, cool. So you're still like all female parts are still in there.
Right.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think eventually his just was like short circuiting and causing all kinds of problems. So they just got rid of it. But
Understandable.
so since I have never seen you like in person in the past, I don't know, like 4 years. Did you get a top operation?
Did not, and I really want to so bad, but
Okay.
it costs money that
I
I
can't
just
tell on camera, so I don't think people know, but
yeah. I wear a binder. That
okay.
gets pressed,
Okay.
so you wouldn't be able to tell whenever you know I'm wearing
Yeah,
clothes.
just out in life. Yeah. Okay,
Right.
cool. So for people that don't know, and I feel like I really like this kind of conversation for other people that are trans and need info, right? So that's why I'm
Right.
asking these questions. They may seem silly. But so do you know what the cost is like for an upper operation?
I'm pretty sure it depends on your insurance on how much would come out of pocket,
Okay.
but it's a couple thousand.
Crazy. I'd assume it would be, it's probably just considered plastic surgery, right? Like a cosmetic surgery.
I mean, I guess I don't know because they're not really putting any. They're taking everything out.
I know.
Then it's basically like a breast reduction.
Yeah,
I
but like
mean,
to nothing. Yeah, exactly.
right. Like it's down to the yeah. They'll
So
they size you and stuff like that to see what would fit your best body type.
yeah. That's crazy. I can't imagine. It is weird that because I think that that's what my friends considered it was like cosmetic surgery, and I think his insurance only covered like half of it or something like that, and it was still a lot of money.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
So did you legally change your name yet or no?
No.
Okay, because that costs money as well, right? I guess if people don't know
Right.
this, you have to
Yeah, you
pay court fees and actually go to court to get your name changed.
exactly. And it's a whole hassle. Like it won't be done right away. Like it's a whole process because then they got to get you a new social security number. They
Yeah.
got to get you like all that stuff. It's insane.
Yep. Did you find it hard? I'm trying to think of how to word this. Did you find it hard coming up with the name that you use now or no?
It's actually a really funny story on how I have my
Because I think you were lucky in the sense that you were Ash before you transitioned and you kind of remained Ash, but just with Ashton instead of the given name. So I was wondering if you like had to think about it and find yourself, or if you were just like, nah, I'll just keep it easy.
So I actually was gonna change my name to Gavin.
Okay.
I was dating this girl at the time
Uh-huh.
that for like 4 years, and I came out to her as trans, and eventually after we started dating,
Uh-huh.
she actually helped me pick my name. She said she was like, why don't you just go with something that's already originally like with your name so it's not as hard for people to call you, you
Yeah.
know. So she actually came up with the name Ashton, and it kind of stuck because it made more sense to me. You
Yeah.
know, it is very similar, and I went by Ash pretty much all my life with my parents. So
Yeah. I always thought that would be interesting because I watched something about Caitlyn Jenner having to like find themselves and come up with a name for themselves. And I was like, oh God, I can't imagine. Because I haven't been a fan of my name my whole life because Jerry's kind of a fuck up name. People just pick on it, like Jerry Springer, Jerry Seinfeld. No serious person ever has ever been named Jerry. So I've
I
just
don't
always
know the
been like,
house, Jerry.
yeah, I get Mouse, I get Jerry Curl, Jerry Springer, Jerry Seinfeld, Jerry Maguire, Ben and Jerry's, Tom and Jerry, the Jerry kids. The list is
Right.
endless. So I always hated it, but I was like, this is what I'm stuck with. I didn't know I had like a choice, I
Right.
guess.
No, right.
And then I was like, oh man, I don't even know how I would rename myself at this point. Like it seems so daunting to have to come up with something new. But that's the whole like process of finding yourself, I guess, right?
Right. Absolutely.
But that's crazy that they make it so hard that you can go through the hormonal therapy, but then it's so hard and so costly to do the surgeries or the name change. Because I
Yes.
think whenever I've had friends that had to do it before, it's like you have to pay hundreds of dollars in court fees, like day of, fill out an application, give them all the money. Then they like eventually get around to giving you a court date, which is like months and months away. And then you
Yep.
show up in court, pay more fees, and then eventually they'll do it. But then, like you said, I think then that you have to go and pay somebody else to change your birth certificate and pay somebody else to change your social security card, which is, in my opinion, I think it's so crazy with how difficult it is. Whenever if I get married, I can change my name, right?
Right.
Like,
And that's where it's like, I don't understand.
yeah, like they just dole it out. They're like, oh, here's your new social security card. Here, you have a great
Right.
day. I didn't change my name with marriage, but I could have. And like in California, it's so open in California with marriages that like my husband could have changed his last name. We could have picked a whole new last name for ourselves if we wanted to make one up. Like,
Right.
but for some reason, it's still this whole long process to change a name for a trans person, even though yours is super simple and you're just changing like 3 letters at the end.
So 3 letters and my middle name. That's about it.
Oh, I forgot about middle names. Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend picked a really cool middle name. I don't want to like drop names, but yeah, I can tell you after. But
Okay.
he just picked like a super duper cool middle name instead of like a serious one. And I really liked that. I was like, oh, that would be cool. That's what I would want to do. Like a really cool name. Like, but yeah, I know that person just picked a name completely different than their like given name at birth. Did you have a problem with people like at work or friends and family just like refusing to call you by the right pronouns or the right name?
I had, out of all my jobs, I had one job that the manager there just was not, he just throw it out in public. You know what I mean? Like, so everybody knew. And that's the only job that really ever did anything like that. Like when I worked at Five Below in high school, super cool about it because originally there I was my biological name, you know.
Yeah.
So and then they actually worked with me really well and they respected that.
Yeah.
Any job after that respected that, but that one place just
They're not having it.
he was not having it.
That's so weird to me that people get so mad about it.
Right.
I don't know why people get so bent out of shape, honestly.
I don't either.
Like, I don't know. How do I know who you are? You tell me who you are.
Right.
So there's like there's little nuances that I've learned about from other trans people. Like obviously you're able to grow facial hair because of hormones and whatnot.
Right.
But like one of the things that I never thought of, because I'm not a trans person and I don't pay attention to these things, but like I was told, do you wear shoes that are bigger than your actual foot so that it looks more proportionate?
I do not because I have big feet already.
Okay.
So
Okay. And
I
then
didn't have to worry about that.
I know your dad is super tall, but I don't know how tall you are as an adult. Do you get weird looks by people thinking you're pretty short for a guy?
Absolutely. I am 5'4.5". You
Okay.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah. So I'm pretty short.
Yeah, because I've heard that.
With arms and legs.
I've heard that as a problem in both directions. Like if it's like trans women will tend to be taller than normal, or trans men tend to be shorter than the average heights.
Right.
Not, I don't want to use the word normal. But yeah, so I was wondering about that kind of stuff. And like if you don't want to answer this, you don't have to, but do you have apparatuses that help you go to the bathroom in the men's room?
Oh, like a go girl?
Yeah, like I just learned about these literally like 2 months ago.
I do have one.
Okay. So
I
my
do.
friend, because the only reason I even found out about it was we went to a concert, like a weekend long festival with my trans friend. And I never had really thought about it, but we were sharing a hotel room, right? And so I go into the bathroom and the toilet seat was up. And I was like, how does that work? Like, that seems so convenient in some ways. And so
Right.
then he told me, but he called it like an STP or something like that.
Yes.
And then he showed it to me and it's so realistic looking. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know these were ever an option. Science is amazing.
It's like crackers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and they come in different skin colors. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a time to be alive. And he was like, yeah, my wife keeps saying she's going to buy one because it's so convenient to go in the men's room. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. So are you dating anybody now?
I am currently not.
Cool, cool.
It is a whole situation.
Have you always been into like women? I know you
Yeah,
said you were bisexual at some point, but we've already said that that was like just a weird name for what you were going through.
right. Yes, I have. It's really weird because like it wasn't even me liking guys. It was like I want to look like him. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I wanna
It was
be
more
him.
admiration than adoration.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I was telling my guest last week is Bevan, and she's a lesbian. She's in her 40s, and we were talking about coming out and stuff like that. And I was telling her like I never came out because I'm an adult. I don't know, and I just don't. I'm not the person that like does that. But
Yeah.
I knew like through high school I didn't like just men, but I've only ever been with men because that's what I know. And then as I got to California and I've got to like find myself more and gotten away from like Elizabeth, Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
I consider myself like a pansexual person, but I've
Yeah.
never like came out as that. I didn't call my dad and tell him I discovered it or anything because like I said, I'm like almost 30, so I don't see the point.
Right.
But I love that it's an option because I did all this because I thought the same thing whenever I was like, well, I feel like I want a label for how I'm feeling, but I don't know how to label it because bisexual isn't it. Because I just like people. I just
Right.
think certain people are attractive. It didn't matter to me like what they looked like on the outside or what parts they had in their pants.
It's like a soul thing.
But yeah, so like, and especially whenever I got to California and you meet all the spectrum people, that's not like where I grew up, and I feel like Latrobe is probably similar, where it's like black and white, male and female, the end. And
Yeah.
here in
Yeah.
California, there's like all different colored people and all different types of people on all different spectrums. And so that's whenever I really realized I was like, oh, okay, this is really cool. But I think it's interesting that some people just do not understand it and they just hate on it for no real reason, I guess. It's very bizarre to me.
I think it's just because it's different, you know.
Yeah,
People
probably.
have a time like with change.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of old heads have a hard time with change, but there's a lot of old heads that just flow with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's so weird. It is
yeah.
so
So like that's a good segue into talking about my dad because I assumed my dad would just be the guy that didn't respect any of it at all and would just be like, you're a woman, right?
yeah. I
Like,
thought the same thing though.
but I think you got lucky in a way to where my dad is so old he doesn't want to waste his energy on this stuff anymore,
Right.
which I think is what happens to a lot of people. They just get to a point where they're like, you know what? I don't have energy for this. You are what you say you are. I don't care anymore. Right.
Right. Right.
So I was told that he taught you how to grill burgers. I don't know if he actually taught you or maybe you knew before, but he was showing you how to grill burgers at a family reunion, right?
Correct.
So has my dad always been like cool about it, or did it take him time to get used to it, or how's that like? Because I never talked to my dad about it. I don't like to talk to my dad about controversial things.
Yeah.
So I have never ever asked him about you.
I'm really not sure because
Oh,
I worked
okay.
for so long
Uh-huh.
that I didn't tell him. So I'm guessing my dad told him, obviously, because they're like, you know,
Oh my god, yeah, they're best
friends.
friends.
Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure because I recently just saw Pap like last time he was here at the family reunion. That's the first time I saw him in a few years.
Oh, okay, cool.
And
But he seemed to be okay with it, I guess, right? He was saying he and Ash.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he did a lot better than I thought he was gonna do. I thought he
Yeah.
was just turn cold shoulder type of thing.
Yeah. Because I love my dad and I talk about him a lot on this podcast. But and I said in the last episode, actually that'll come out before yours, that like he grew up in a very like closed-minded time in a closed-minded place, and he was more closed-minded whenever I was growing up than he is now, so it's like a big shout out to him for his growth. But
Absolutely.
I remember being in like high school, maybe right out of high school, and like dating a lot of people and whatnot, and him telling me something came up about a gay friend or me going to the gay clubs, and then I had a gay friend that would come around and he'd be like, oh yeah, so and so, they're the ones with sugar in their pants, right? And like that was like his term, and I thought like it's offensive, but it's like a funny type of effect. Like I can't help but
Right.
laugh at hearing that, even though that's really
Yeah.
mean. But like just the way he would say stuff would like
I've
make me
never heard
laugh.
of that.
No one's ever heard of that before, dude. I don't know what the heck that means. But it was like that. It was like he was kind of condescending about it, but like in a joking way. And there was another one too. I'm trying to remember what he would say. Well, he would always say like, oh yeah, he's a little hanky, right? And that just means they're a little different.
Right.
And then there was another one. There was one about sugar in his pants. And then there was another saying that he had too about stuff like that. Oh, I remember Randy dated this girl whenever he first joined the military. And then they broke up and she started dating women, but they stayed friends. And my dad would joke about it all the time about how Randy was so bad in bed that he turned her into a lesbian.
Well, it's funny because I can see it. Like I can see him.
And like that's hella offensive, but at the same time, like he's old and it's funny to hear him say that.
Right.
And then I remember like her coming over and like hanging out with us with Randy after she, you know, came out as a lesbian. And my dad would be like, so how are them women treating you? Right. Like, he's like, women can be hard to deal with. How are they treating you? Like, so it's just weird. Like, I never know how he'll react to those things. But I thought it was really cool that he was like excited about it. I don't know. I feel like the other thing too is he doesn't really have like, you're his only grandson that he has close to him because there's Michelle's son, but he's little still. He's not like impressionable yet. He's not at a fun like learn to grill and work on cars age, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, because I remember whenever like Jared was born, who's my kid, my dad was like really bummed that he finally had a grandson. At the time, I don't think you had been, because Jared's 7. So if you were out, it was like we didn't know about it.
Right.
So dad was like, oh, that's my only grandson and you live in California. Like that sucks. And then Michelle had her son. So he was like, oh, okay, now I have one close to me. So I think he's probably just happy that he has a grandson that he can like teach these things to, which are all bad things, in my opinion. Like, oh, I can teach you how to spit and like say bad things about women that are really funny.
Oh,
like I can teach you how to swear. Like
that is probably the hardest thing about like I'm a glass tech for Safe Light. So working with guys, like some of the, like, you know, like they talk about the guy stuff, but like I just don't I don't say like certain stuff, and when they say stuff, I'm just like, huh? Like,
yeah,
you talking about your girl like that?
yeah. So that's like the kind of guy my dad is, where he's just like the guy, he's like the man's man that has all those things to say.
Like the mechanic thing and stuff like
yeah. I remember there was a time where I was working on a car with my dad and he said something about it being a cunt hair too short or something like that. I was like, and then he realized that he wasn't with a boy and he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But I had like never, he has had a potty mouth his whole life, but I've never heard him say the C word in my life until that day. And I was like, oh my God, he talks completely differently in front of me than he does in front of guys. Like he's holding back in front of me, and that's scary to think about.
The very true thing. Like I've seen it because I have girlfriends and I have guy friends, and it's completely different. I see how they talk around their girlfriends, and then I see how they talk whenever they're gone. I mean,
yeah. So I know, like, to circle back to the operation thing, I know it's super expensive, but do you want to do the top surgery at some point?
I do. I want that to be the first surgery I get.
Have you considered a GoFundMe?
I have not.
I have a friend that did it and they raised a lot.
Really?
By doing, yeah, I never thought that I don't know why I never think of these things, but crowdfunding, I guess, really works. If you have like a good support system online, I think that they had a lot of friends like through social medias that were way down to support them because their families really didn't, I don't think. And so I was like, oh, they have a GoFundMe for this. I didn't think that was an option. And I think they were able to raise a couple $100, which isn't like going to pay for the whole thing, but it helped. Yeah. Maybe you can look into that. Are you like, do you have a big social media presence or no?
No.
Because
I
I
have
know
my
there
circle.
is a Facebook, but you like never post on it really. So
Yeah, not so much anymore. I used to when I was younger,
yeah.
but now I just feel like there's no time to be on there all the time like I used to.
Yeah. I go through phases and I've been really into Instagram for like the past year more than Facebook. I feel like Facebook's just like, I don't
It's
know.
kind of bored. Scroll,
It,
share,
yeah,
scroll.
that's what I do on Facebook. And a lot of it is like, oh, I'm kind of bored. Let's check out the reality television today. Right. That's what it's
Right,
just shit
right.
posting. And I think that's
It's,
fun sometimes. But
same thing. Same thing.
I always wonder what the youths do, right? Because there's like all the things. There's like Snapchats and TikToks. And I've
I
never
do.
been into Twitter. I don't know how it's still around, but it's lasted the test of time. But
I've never Twitter. I
me
don't know.
either.
Actually, no. I downloaded it. Couldn't use it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, yeah, this is stupid. Not my style.
Do you plan on doing a bottom surgery at all?
I do.
Okay.
That's going to be the second surgery I want to go through because that one is a lot more intense.
Yeah, so I was going to ask if you're comfortable sharing how they do it because I've been told how they do it, but I wanted to know if you wanted to share about it.
I mean, yeah, why not?
Because
I don't even know. I don't feel comfortable talking about it. It's like, you know what I mean? I don't,
yeah, I've heard like there's
it,
different ways to do it and none of it's really friendly, really.
no, it's all brutal. I actually, whenever my therapist made me like do the
Research it.
information, and I
Uh-huh.
actually looked up like the videos and stuff, and I was like, I'm never doing that. But then as I slowly, I was like, maybe I'm gonna do it. I just not right now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's funny
law.
because I I know people on both spectrums where they're like, I don't want to do it because it's so intense and then it doesn't really work the way you think it's going to work after. And then other people just really want to do it because that's who they are, right? Like of course
Right,
you want a penis. But like
right.
yeah, I always think that that's another scary thing that you have to go through all of the surgeries to be the person you are. It's so crazy and so sad at the same time.
It's like after the surgery, it's kind of like a prop. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's up in the air if you're ever. It could damage. It does damage a lot of your nerves.
Yeah.
So like, am I going to feel anything, or is it just
Yeah.
going to be?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I've heard the same concerns from many people. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is.
Uh-oh. We lost you. Okay, cool. We're back up. This actually happened with Randy's too, where it cut out halfway through. It's totally fun. But that's why technology is amazing, right?
Right.
So anyways, I did want to ask if you because we were just talking about all of the private parts. So do you want to have kids one day?
I do.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. So I'm assuming the route would be like surrogacy or adoption.
Yeah. So I was
Hmm.
actually
Or I guess depending on who you're dating, you could do like sperm donation.
right. That's
Okay.
kind of where I want to lean more towards. Just because I want the full experience of, girlfriend, fiance, whatever,
Yeah.
pregnant, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
hearing the baby, feeling the baby type of thing. I don't know. There's just something about that just like that's a whole different experience, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. That's really cool. Um, are you into marriage or no?
That one's tricky.
Yeah, I feel that.
I do want to get married. Uh but like seeing like divorce and stuff like that, it's
Yeah,
kind of scary.
for sure.
It's kind of scary.
I think that I don't know. I think it's unfortunate that marriage has become like a government thing instead of
Right.
like instead of like a person thing. So I think I've mentioned it on here before. I'm pretty sure it's come up before. If not, people will just know now that me and Chris met, fell in love the whole bit. I was pregnant whenever we met. Either
Yeah.
way. Way after we were together for like 3 years before we got married. We had this whole wedding. huge wedding, you know, all the money gone, family flies in, the whole bit. And then the guy that marries us didn't like sign the paperwork, and it didn't get sent in time because you only have like 10 days after the wedding to turn it in. So then we're like, oh shit, we're not legally married, as in like the state of California does not think we're married. So we had but we just considered ourselves married, and nobody knew the difference, like, because nothing really, I feel like nothing really changes with like the couple. It's just the government now knows you're married, and then the government gets involved if you want to break up. So and if you do your taxes
more
together,
complication.
Yeah. So like
another way for them to get money out of you, basically, because you got to pay for a divorce. And
exactly. So but then what happened was I got like a real person job because I finally finished college and I have like an actual career that pays benefits. Well, they only give benefits to like legally registered domestic partners or like legally married people. So we went to Reno real quick and just got married one weekend legally. So we're finally legally married as of like September of 2021. But we had this whole ass wedding like 4 years ago, and we've just considered ourselves married since that day. And I found out that happens all the time. Apparently, like, especially if you get married through a church, like the priests will get backed up and not submit the paperwork in time. Like,
whoa, what?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
It's crazy. People don't know this stuff. So then I've told like a lot of my closer friends. We never made it like publicly known, but I've told closer friends that I knew were getting married to be like, make sure you turn your paperwork in because it's a whole thing, right?
You got 10 days.
Yeah, they're like scared. They're so scared that they're gonna like fuck it up. But yeah,
they start setting reminders on their phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I always think it's interesting to ask. I guess it's like minorities how they feel about marriage, because it is very like heteronormative these days still, unfortunately. But yeah, like
I feel like if you get married and stuff like that, like nothing should change. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's a lot of people that get married and then it crumbles. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is, but for some reason, like that marriage label just falls with a lot of people.
I think it might be fantasized too much, where they think that, like, I don't know, maybe it's the idea of the commitment. I don't know. It is weird because I don't feel like anything changed with me and Chris. I got married at 25 and everybody told me I was too young. And I remember standing there about to walk down the aisle with like all my bridesmaids and my dad. And then everybody kept saying like, are you sure you're ready? Are you sure you're ready? And then somebody was like, hey, if you want to go, we'll go. And since I'm like bridezilla at this point, I just yelled in the room. I think we were standing in a bathroom. We were hiding in a bathroom so that no one would see us, because I didn't want Chris to see me before I walked down the aisle. And I just yelled. I was like, if one more person asks me, I like freaked out. And,
yeah, it's already stressful, you know. You got everybody here. Like,
and, but yeah, I think people just assume that. I think people put too much pressure on the idea of it. And then I remember at 27, I was really dealing with a lot of mental health issues, and I thought that maybe I'd want a divorce. And then that's why I went into therapy, because I didn't know why I wanted a divorce. I was just an unhappy person, and that just seemed like a viable option. Like, oh, I'm unhappy, maybe I should just get divorced. So I feel like that's a good go-to. So, but yeah, I've never really, I think you just have to meet the right person. But yeah, that's cool though. I think marriage can be cool. I think it's getting better, honestly. They say millennials are ruining everything. I don't know if you're born in 99, so yeah, you're like a millennial, I think. Anyways, the media is always saying we're ruining everything. We're ruining stores and I don't know what else. Crappy brand names and dog food. And I think we've pretty much ruined marriage, and we're coming out the other side a little bit better.
Oh man.
Like, because everybody that I know is doing weddings like a super cheap way. They're not doing it the classical way where you blow like $100,000 on your wedding. And
no,
people aren't really into the jewelry anymore. Like I remember reading while I was doing my wedding planning that the millennials are ruining the diamond industry because they're not buying jewelry.
because there's so much more in life than
yeah.
that stuff. Like,
Yeah, like
there's so much more.
we didn't buy our rings. My ring set was my mom's from her second, like, well, she wasn't married to my dad, but the
Yeah,
relationship after my dad where she was married, I just used her set.
right.
And he was like, "Oh, are you worried that it's like bad juju?" Right? Because they, spoiler
It's
alert, her
only
and my
bad
stepdad
juju.
didn't work out, but I was like, it's free, so it can't be bad but juju. Like,
Right. It's only bad juju if you make it bad juju. You're
yeah.
manifesting that at that point. If
Yeah.
you think it is, it's gonna be.
And then at the time, my husband just used his dad's wedding band, and now he uses like the little silicone like Enzo rings or whatever they call them.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
they're just cheap and you don't have to worry about losing them.
Yeah, they're easy. You know,
Yeah.
if you lose it, it's like, okay,
They're like
well,
$1
I
a
can go
piece or
get
some
another
shit.
one.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I know that your phone died. So we have, if you didn't know, before I end the episodes, I like to ask Instagram questions. So it's all basically all social media, but I go on my Instagram stories and ask people for questions about who I'm interviewing. And so I got a couple comments on Facebook and Instagram, if you're cool with answering them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of them might be longer than others. So I'll start with what I think is the longest one first. So someone asked, and I was very touched by this. I don't know this person, but because of the hashtags, like random people saw my Instagram question.
Yeah.
Because I think I hashtag like trans and trans lives matter. So I had random people seeing it because my Instagram's public. So and this person was like, "Thank you so much for doing this interview. Like, I feel really well represented, or like I feel like people care about my representation." So I thought that was really cool. But
yeah, that's awesome.
Their question was, "Can you describe your experience with gender dysphoria and what it felt like?"
Oh, yeah. So I still get like that sometimes.
I didn't really know what gender dysphoria was.
It's basically like, the way I describe it is like, you remember how I said I bind?
Mm-hmm.
I used to wear like 2 binders, which is awful for your chest.
Okay.
Awful for your breathing. It's basically like, can people tell or can people not tell? And it's awful.
Okay.
But
Whenever I read it, I instantly thought of like body dysmorphia, where people are fat, think they're fat, but they're skinny, or vice versa, or something else like that, where there's something that they think is severely wrong with their body, but it's just their brain telling them stuff.
Right. It's
true.
very similar to that.
Okay.
Very similar. Like, the way I see it is, am I passing enough? Or can they tell that I'm on hormones? You know what I mean? Like, can they tell that I am a trans? It's more of that type of thing.
That just gave me like a whole nother level of anxiety.
Yeah.
Because I feel like as a normal, like, cis white lady, I already have so many insecurities that I'm questioning in my head all day long as I walk through life. Like, now you just added a whole nother level to that.
Yeah, it's bad. Like, I used to think that like people could tell that I had boobs, so like I would double bind. Okay. Which, everybody that's listening, do not do that, because I used to sleep in my binder too, which is also really bad. That's
crazy.
Yeah.
So I have a question stemming from that question now that I'm thinking more about it. Yeah. So in the dating scene, is there a time where you have to be like, "Hey, don't freak out, I have boobs," right? Like,
right. So the way I deal with that is, there's people do it all different ways. They wait, they don't wait. I don't wait. I tell people straight right away, like, listen, I'm trans. I did not go through any surgeries, so I have all my biological parts. I just come out right away, because I don't want somebody to think they're getting something that they're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
I rather just be straightforward. I had to get more comfortable with that, but once I started accepting completely who I was and not caring so much about what other people think about it, it was a lot easier for me to express that to people.
Have you had people change their minds after you tell them?
I have.
Oh my God,
Yes.
that sounds so scary. I can't even.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna
why.
be up all night thinking about the anxieties of trans people now. I can't. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it sucks, but like I rather them get out before I catch feelings. You know what I mean?
yeah, I
Before
guess
it's
that's
serious.
true. It's still being turned down, but I guess it's not like as bad as it could be.
Right, right.
That's so crazy. Because I feel like if I went up to a person in a bar and I was like, hey, and they were like, howdy do. And then we were both clearly interested, and they were like, hey, just so you know, I'm a pre-op trans man. I'd be like, wow, this is way better than I expected it to be. Like,
Right, right.
I thought you were just going to be some basic dude.
Yeah, it gets turned everywhere. Like at my old job, I had a girl like, ask for my number and stuff, and then like I told her I was trans, and that it ended there. Like we just didn't talk ever again. So
That sucks, but I guess such is life.
yeah, I mean, in the long run, I guess it's better that way. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, like you said, you wouldn't really want to make it linger, because then you would get feelings and then you'd find out that they don't really like you. They just liked what they saw on the outside. So
Right.
do you know any trans women?
I do.
Because I feel like
I know one.
I feel like I know of trans women like through social media, but I don't know them in real life. And I'm wondering, like, if you know, do they deal with a lot of, I'm assuming they would, do they have a lot of the same issues where they're constantly worried with like this, what did they call it? Gender dysphoria? And like,
Yes.
am I passing and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and I feel like it's a lot harder for M2Fs because
Interesting. Okay.
it's the same thing with what we were talking about earlier with the lesbian. Like that was always more accepted.
Yeah.
So for a male to go to female, I mean, they have to worry about their voice. It takes a lot more to change their voice than it does for a female to male.
Oh, okay. I
To
didn't know
make
all
their
this.
voice higher,
Okay.
another thing's breasts, it's
Mm-hmm.
we can bind, but they, you know, what do they, I don't know exactly what kind of stuff they have to appear more feminine.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot harder for them.
Have you been to drag shows before?
No, but at Pride they had stuff like that going on.
So I loved going to the gay clubs in Pittsburgh. They were such amazing places to be at the time that I was 18. And I loved drag shows. And I always, the stuff that they come up with to look so feminine blew my mind. Like they should get paid a lot of money for the kinds of stuff that they think of to compensate for where they're lacking, because not all drag queens are trans people. A lot of them are just men that really enjoy this persona, and it's
Right.
like it's their thing, it's their hobby. And so like the kinds of like fake apparatuses they have and then they make them look so realistic always blew my mind. And then like most men don't have curvaceous hips, some do but not all.
Right.
And so then they like figure out that they can put like hoop skirts under things to like make their dress on the bottom look bigger. And I was like, it blew my mind all the time.
Oh,
It blew my mind all the time, the stuff that they would come
okay.
up with. And then just watching those men walk in heels was like so painful to me. Like
I've never walked in heels in my life.
I cannot, like my heels can be like this high at max. That's almost like a little bit higher than a cowboy boot. And most of them are like boots. They're not like heels, right? Like,
Right.
and so watching them walk in like those platformed like heels to where now they're like
All
7 feet
heels.
tall. I can't imagine how painful it is. I don't know how we got on this tangent of drag queens, but I'm obsessed with them.
I'd
Back
break my
in
ankle.
back in like 10 years ago, literally, because I'm 29. So whenever I was like 18, I worked at Best Buy, and I met like three gay guys, two gay guys, and I think the third one was like a boyfriend of another one. Anyways,
Yeah.
and like I said before, I literally didn't know any gay people in high school. They were the first gay people I'd ever like encountered. and hung out with. And then I found out that gay clubs are a thing, because in Pittsburgh in 2010, gay people were not welcome in normal bars. They would get beat up. So
Right.
the gay bars were literally underground places that were not labeled at all, and you had to know where they are. It's not like that anymore. But I think there's like one or two in downtown Pittsburgh now. I think one was called like Crush or Splash or something like that. Anyways, like 5 years ago, I went with somebody whenever they turned 18 to like a gay club. But anyways, and the one that we used to go to was called Pegasus, and it was a little bit
I've
outside
heard
of.
of.
Is it still a thing? I hope it's still a thing.
No, they closed it down.
Okay. And Pegasus was most gay clubs are 18 and over, and they just have separate areas for people that are over 21 to get drinks.
Yeah.
And they put huge marks on your hand if you're under 21, so that no one will serve you, not the cute shot guys that are in their undies, like no one.
Right.
So you have like, I remember like gigantic X's across my hands, and I would go into work like all messed up the next day because I was out till 4 a.m. at the club with like the permanent marker all over my
Right.
hands.
X's on your hands.
Yeah. But yeah, and then sometimes it's like on your face because you, anyways. But yeah, it was just like the best culture, because it was all these people that weren't accepted by society just hiding in this tiny little building that was never labeled. It never had a sign, but it was like the cliche like 2 or 3 story building with like the lights coming out of the top floors.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, there's a party happening here, and I didn't know that until I got to this building. So I loved it so much. And they would do drag shows, and like Lady Gaga had just hit the scene, so there would be like Lady Gaga themed nights where every drag queen had to dress like Gaga and do like a competition.
That'd be so cool. That'd
and
be
like
so cool to see.
Halloween parties where I remember there was a themed Halloween party that was called an ABC party, which is where you wear anything but clothes. Like, I just feel like they're doing everything right whenever it comes to fun things. Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But off of that tangent, back to the Instagram questions. Sorry, I got distracted. So then I only have 3 more, and I think these ones are pretty quick because I think we went through them already, kind of. Do you feel like you lost any friends or family like because of your transition?
I honestly don't feel that way at all.
Oh, that's good.
I know a lot of people don't have a supportive family with stuff like this. So I feel like I didn't lose anybody. If anything, I like just outgrown by growing up,
Okay.
like friends and stuff. I did not lose anybody to the trans stuff. No.
That's cool. So jumping off that question, do you feel like the relationships that you have had through the transitioning process are stronger now that they've stuck with you through transition?
Yes, a lot stronger.
That's cool. I guess you know that they're like the real ones, right? Because they made it through the other side.
Right. And that has a lot to do with family for me, because my friends have always been supportive of it.
Oh,
but
that's cool.
When my family I wasn't expecting a lot of them to accept it. Mm-hmm. Whenever they did, that kind of showed me that, okay, like these people are here for me. They care about me. You know what I mean? They support me in every way possible.
I guess I didn't think to ask this until now, but how did your sister handle it? The sister that is with your mom, not the half siblings.
She was the most supportive, I think.
That's awesome.
Everybody.
Because I don't really know her that well. And I know there's a big age gap, right? What do you guys like, almost 10 years apart?
Yeah. I think we're 8 years apart. She's 14.
Okay.
And she's like my little best friend.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she accepted it, I think, faster and quicker than anybody.
That's really cool. It's no offense to your half siblings. I just know that they're a lot younger. They're like 8 or maybe 10. So it's probably not quite in their wheelhouse yet to really even think about it or care about it.
Yeah, they don't understand that process yet. And that's okay. But they obviously like caught on to that pretty quick too, because they are so young. Yeah. So it was easier for them to not, judge it as much.
Yeah, I know, like for my son, my husband's friend who is a trans man, my son has only known him in his his post-transition life. So
Right.
I don't even think that Jared knows that that person is a trans person. I don't even think he knows that that is a thing. He just knows that that guy is a guy. And I think it's really
Absolutely.
cool that he lives in a time like that. I think it'll cause people to question it even less and care about it even less. But okay. The last question from Instagram was, did it surprise you who accepted you and who didn't?
Absolutely, 100%.
Because I know for
Absolutely.
me, like, it didn't surprise me about how you said Danny reacted, but
Yeah, even my great grandparents on my mom's side, they
oh
accepted
wow,
it, and I was like, "Holy crap!"
that's cool.
Like you guys are in your 80s, and you just kind of okay. Like I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah,
I was expecting that cold shoulder effect again. Like, yeah,
yeah,
don't come around.
yeah, that's really cool. Do you talk to your dad's mom or your dad's mom's side of the family at all? Or no?
Yes, yeah, I do.
Okay, because I don't want to name drop, but like I grew up with Danny and then the other three boys. There's three of them, right?
Yep.
His half brothers. So
Yeah.
I didn't know if you ever saw them and if they know or if his mom knows and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they know. I really only talked to one of my dad's brothers,
Cool.
his youngest half brother.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. He's like my age.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So like I talked to him and his fiance as well. And I talk to my grandma every once in a while. But she also knows she had a little bit of a hard time accepting it at first.
Yeah.
But she came around. She still messes up every once in a while just because I don't see her as often.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, yeah. I feel I'm kind of torn on that. I'm like, is it really that hard to get used to? I don't know. I don't think it is, but
Yeah,
I
it's
guess I
like
understand it in the sense that I still struggle with the proper politically correct terminology sometimes. Like
yeah,
I really hate myself whenever I catch myself saying like they were a woman and now they are a man because that's not accurate.
yeah,
So I guess
right.
I understand it in that sense where it's like they're not used to the terms, I guess. But then at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you're just not trying hard enough. I don't know.
I,
I try
right.
not to judge though. I try not to judge. So, but yeah, that's
Yeah, I
cool.
try to be easy mind with it. It's not affecting me. I'm happy. So
Yeah.
I mean, if they are doing that to just low key not accept it, then that's fine because I accept myself. I've grown
I love
into
that.
loving myself.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. Cool. Is there anything else you would tell other people that are like trans trying to find themselves, not cis?
yes, if you are trying to find yourself, just dig deep, do your research, make sure this is what you want, make sure that this is you know what I mean? Because there's so many variety of different things now. Uh Definitely do your research. That's the main point.
Yeah.
Because it's an outcome of something, you don't want to start something and then turn back and be like, wait, that wasn't me that whole time.
Yeah.
So definitely do your research.
That's really cool. I like that a lot. I know that whenever I was like finding myself through therapy and whatnot, um, I had heard somebody on TV somewhere say like, well, when did you know that you were a girl or that you were a man? And then the person was like, oh, well, I knew I liked women and it was like a man. And he was like, oh, I knew I liked women since I was such and such age. And she was like, no, I didn't ask you when you knew who you were attracted to. I asked you when you knew you were a boy, right? Like, do you know that day
Right.
that you knew you were a boy? And then that like blew my mind. I was like, oh shit. Cause the guy was like, oh no, I think everybody just told me I was a boy. And I was like, that's the same, that like that's how everybody goes
That,
through life, right? Like,
yep.
and it's so crazy to think about. Cause then I was like, well, damn, do I know that I'm a girl? Right. So then I started like going
Right.
inward. And
Right.
I had to like think about it. I'm like, do I really, really know that I'm a girl? Like, am I 100% sure? Because this is just how I am as a person. And I have to like deep dive all of it. And so yeah, I think I just came to the conclusion that I don't know if anybody told me that I'm a girl or if I'm decided that I'm a girl, but I know for sure I love all the parts that I have.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to change them. So that's where I came to the conclusion that I will identify as like she
Right.
or female, but I'm also not a person to be offended by pronouns. I totally respect everybody's pronoun wishes 100%, but I'm not a person that gets offended by somebody calling me something other than like she or her or what have you. So like, and I know other people like that too, where they're like, I don't care what you call me, right? Just whatever. So, but yeah, I think it's very interesting I think everybody should really try to find themselves, not just people that are questioning maybe their sexuality or their identities. But what was before we go, if you have time, what is therapy like whenever you're transitioning? Because I've gone through therapy and I know what therapy was like for me, but I wasn't going because I wanted to transition. I was going for other reasons. So I'm wondering,
It's pretty intense. They
like, is it the
dig deep.
classic therapy style where they want to go through childhood traumas and stuff?
So yeah, they will get into that a little bit. But I feel like they dig deeper than that. Like I cried a few times.
Yeah, I feel like therapy isn't therapy unless you're crying.
Yeah. Like I loved my therapist. She was great, but yeah, she dug really deep with like a lot of questions that just they make you think. And it's like, but no, that's not why. Like I am who I am. And the childhood trauma and stuff like that, they do get into that. And I cried a lot through that too. Because
Yeah.
they say like I feel like they go through the childhood trauma and stuff like that because they want to see if that's what's affecting this. If that might be
Yeah.
the wrong way to put it, but like they want to see if that's why you're making the decision. You know what I mean? Because it's not a decision, but they need to make sure of that before they put you on those hormones.
Yeah, I think it's what you were saying. Like you have to be sure of yourself,
Right.
and that no one else is forcing you to be this person type deal.
Exactly.
But yeah, maybe forcing isn't the right word, but nobody's other actions have like affected your decision really.
Right.
Because going through therapy, I blamed my parents for a lot of my problems, and I think therapy taught me to stop blaming people and to just learn what causes the issues. And then like my favorite saying is like you get a toolbox and a therapist gives you tools to put in it so that whenever those feelings come up, you can like open your toolbox and like
Yep. Yeah. No, that's actually really, yeah, that's accurate.
yeah, because like my therapist is like, your parents are people, they're just normal people. And I it's funny because a lot of comedians go through therapy and they talk about this too, where they're like, they're just normal people that fuck up all the time just like the rest of us. And they're just trying to do their best. Right? They're just trying to pay taxes and die like the rest of us. So you can't keep blaming them for your problems. Like, yeah, sure, they didn't do everything the best, but no one's going to do it the best. So you just need to learn how to get through it. And so I always thought that was really cool. And I always think it's interesting. Like, I had to have a whole conversation with my mom after therapy, not in like a bad way, but she was really worried that I like now like hated her more or something. And I was like, no, that's not what I did in therapy. I didn't learn to like hate anybody more or like blame them more. It was the exact opposite. And like same with my dad. Like he was kind of weirded out about it and was like, well, everybody has a shitty childhood. I don't know why you had to go to therapy. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know everybody has a shitty childhood, but like that's what I needed, so I did it. Like what?
Right. It teaches you to heal. It helps you heal. You know what I mean? Getting all of that out, you know,
yeah,
finding new ways to cope with certain triggers and feelings. Like I was an impulsive like I reacted impulsively before I started therapy.
Yeah, and sometimes I still do. Like the 2020 elections brought out a really ugly side of me, and I've been working really hard to like stop that person from coming out.
Right.
Like I lashed out on a lot of people over, and then eventually I realized like this is dumb. I mean, I know it's important. It is important who runs the country for sure. But then I think like, is it worth all of that energy that I used up on that? Not really, because at the end of the day, they're all old white dudes. Like,
Yeah.
right? Like they're all just really old white dudes. So there's no winning.
I do have one more piece of advice to give people, you know, trying to find themselves and stuff like that is whenever you are questioning and if you realize that you are, do not rush the process. That is a main thing. And do not think that just because this person started having facial hair at 3 months, like that's going to instantly be you. Because sometimes it takes longer.
Oh, I love that. That's really
Sometimes
cool.
it takes
I would have never
shorter
thought of that.
time. Right. That is one thing that I had a hard time with too. Like, why is this person on 4 months of tea and they have a whole beard? You know?
Yeah.
Everybody's different. It has a lot to do with genetics. It has nothing to do with the dose of testosterone. So never inject more than what your doctor has prescribed you.
That's really cool. I love that. How long did it take for you to get facial hair?
A year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then what about the voice change? Does that take a while?
So it
Oh, well, I
takes
guess did it take a while for you? Is my question.
A little bit, yes and no. Like there would be different change. My voice crack was a long time. Like I'd be talking and be like, and I'd be like, what the hell was that?
That's
But
funny.
yeah, about like 6 months, I started to notice my voice a little bit more. Other people noticed it before I did.
Oh,
There's
okay.
sometimes I think I sound like a girl. So I mean, it's like that's another thing, like the whole questioning myself, like, am I passing, stuff like that. Some things I say, I'm like, damn, I probably still sound like a girl. Like,
I have a very interesting question now that you're talking about it. I'm sorry, I know I said we would end this soon and we can, but
okay.
I keep on thinking more things to ask. Is your inner voice feminine still in your head?
Sometimes, yeah,
Because
it scares
I
me.
love asking questions like that, like bilingual people. I'm like, do you think in Spanish or do you think in English? Is it a mixture? Like,
That's actually, I want to know that
I
answer to
love
that.
those types of questions. And I was just wondering while you were talking about that.
Yeah, so from me hearing my voice, I think I don't know what it is, but yeah, sometimes when it's off and on. When I hear the way I said something after I thought it is feminine, and that's when I start questioning, like, oh, did I sound like a girl? Like I question myself. I'm like, wait a minute.
Do you
So
feel
yeah,
like, because you said you have friends, like male friends and female friends, do you feel like your inner thoughts are more of like a feminine track than men? And I guess an example is like, I know what my husband's inner thoughts are like, and they're very just like passing, almost minimal things where he's like, oh, gotta take the trash out today. The end. It's empty in there, right? But
right.
me, my head's just like never fucking ends, never shuts up in there. And I
Oh,
think most women have that constant like thought process going on, and most men do not. They're just more linear. And I'm wondering
I
if yours has changed or.
no, I'm always thinking. I don't know if that just has to do with my mental illness. I don't know, but
Yeah, I don't
uh,
think it's as easy as male and female. I just know that a lot of people are different, but most women tend to have like that constant thought process while men don't. But yeah.
wait, I think I have a better way of explaining my explanation.
Okay.
uh, since I do have both male and female friends, my female friends, they say that like I'm in touch with my feminine side,
Yeah.
and my male friends will be like, I need your advice to get my wife to stop being mad at me or my girlfriend
Okay.
to stop being mad at me. And I think it's because I have that both, like, I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah,
I have that
that makes
in touch
sense.
with feminine or whatever
Yeah.
they like to say,
Yeah. And I think it has to deal with you just being a person that is like went through minority things where you're more
Right.
sensitive as well to other
Absolutely.
people. But yeah, for me, like I was raised by boys. Like I had 4 older brothers and my dad. So even though my inner workings are very feminine, like on the scale, like outwardly I'm such a direct person because that's how I've always been spoken to, is like, this is what I need done, this is how I feel, what are your thoughts? So I have problems with female friendships because I'm not understanding what they want, because they don't tend to be as direct as male relationships, where
Right.
like I've had female friendships where they're mad at me because 2 months ago something happened,
Yeah.
and I'll have male friendships where we'll get into an argument about dumb shit like the vaccination or the election, and we'll battle it out. And then by the time they're driving home, they're like, "Hey, bro, I'm sorry that happened, but I still love
Right.
you." And I'm like, "Yeah, me too. It's cool. It happened. We're good. We're past it." So it's interesting that I identify as a female. I definitely feel very feminine, but still, like, yeah, the way I work, the way I need to be talked to and dealt with is like on a more masculine level than I think most women. It's an interesting spectrum. I definitely believe that all people are on a spectrum in some way or another.
Absolutely. I
'Cause
agree with
my husband is definitely more feminine than most men. Like he has like a ton of female friends, and I have a ton of male friends.
Right.
And the male friends that he do have like do tend to come to him for advice about stuff. So I think it's funny. We always joke that somewhere out there are like two gay people that are missing out on life because me and him ended up getting married, and we're too lazy to get divorced. So somewhere in the world there's a lesbian and a gay guy wandering around looking for their soulmates, and they'll never find them.
Nope. They're out of luck.
But yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I super duper appreciate it. Sorry that your stuff like cut out halfway through, but it'll all blend. It'll make sense whenever I post
I'm
it.
really sorry about that.
That's
I
not true.
that come up, and then next thing I knew, it was shutting off, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I'm running around the house with my stubby legs, 5'4", down the steps, back up the steps.
It's all good. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And
No
yeah,
problem.
I hope that people listening will be more open-minded by the end, or they'll just learn a lot. Either way.
Right.
Hopefully.
That's all that matters. I mean, learning and experiencing new people, you know what I mean?
For sure. I love it.
People instead of books.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ash. I'm gonna stop
problem.
recording, but you don't have to end right away, just so you know.
All right, cool.
Okay,
Cool.
bye.